Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. But I'll tell you what, this week is shaping up to be an interesting week for sure.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
I heard President Trump on an interview with Glenn Beck yesterday. And it was an interesting conversation. And Glenn said to him at one point, well, you may end up in jail. Can you win the presidency from being behind bars? Can you win the presidency in jail? And Trump said, and this is, I'm just kind of giving you behind. He said, I'm not going to jail. I'm not going to jail. And he said it wasn't like a nervous, I'm not going to jail. It was a matter of fact, I'm not going to jail. It was something that it was like he was letting us look behind the curtain for a second. I'm not going, and I'm thinking to myself, does he know stuff that we haven't got a clue about? Do you know? Is there something that's happening behind the scenes that we're not aware of? Because he said it with such calmness. It wasn't a defensive, I'm not going to jail. It was, I'm not going to jail. Thought that was interesting.
There's a lot of ways you can read it. You got to, for the people to believe in you, because it's really up to the people. When's enough? I mean, you and I sit there and point out the obvious glaring crap that is going on with all of this. Every accusation against Trump is just that. It's an accusation that, is prejudice. It's partiality,
it's partisan. It's not right. But you know what, though, Bill? I'm constantly amazed that there's still people out there who are unabashedly left. I mean, I have friends. I have old friends who are unabashedly left, and they don't have a good argument, but they just want to argue.
Well, I think there's two things going on. Number one, their argument all seems to be the same. So I'm going, the Democrats are not dumb. They've perfected their propaganda. So you see the negative memes, you see the arguments. I tend to say, you've heard of think tanks. They've got a think tank that is really a propaganda tank that the lefties go to, and hey, if you see this and you see them talking about this, you post that, you post this, they're attacking with all the same stuff.
Every morning about 4:00 in the morning, the DNC issues a memo to key people in the media with talking points. That's why you can turn on MSNBC at 6 in the morning and CNN at 6 in the morning, and they will sometimes say the exact same words, the exact same phrases, because they're reading it from the exact same script.
So they've got their monkeys trained. They're all doing the same stuff all the time. Now, if you sit there and Jack Smith going to do more indictments against Trump. Well, we're reconvening the grand jury because we've got more evidence on whether or not he was covering up and lying and blocking the discovery of the documents, which actually was something Joe was guilty of, and that Jack Smith met with Joe's people, and that was the narrative that Biden threw at them. They are marching to the orders given to them by the DNC and Joe Biden himself. But they're sitting there, they're taking this and distributing it. You see a story about Trump, they find a vilifying photo of him, and then they show a picture of Jack Smith. It's a nice publicity photo. You sit there and see Tanya, the judge. What's her name?
Chutkan.
Yeah. You see hers. It's the same smiley thing. Like, here I am, the judge princess. Fanny. And then she's always got that nice stern. I'm a good prosecuting DA. And they don't have the random caught off guard picture that they specialize in on Trump.
They tried to nail him with the mugshot. They tried to nail Trump with the mugshot, and he turned it around, and someone said he couldn't have posed better. I mean, he couldn't have practiced in the mirror a number of times to get that look. It was perfect.
Well, one of two things happened. Either Trump walked in with that chiseled look on his face and didn't take it up until he heard the click, or somebody that was taking the picture goes, "Give me the look." And they took it, because doing, photography, somebody goes, "Oh, well, that's a great picture." You know what? The subject is the subject, and all you've got to do is, hey, there's Trump off in the distance, snap a couple of frames, and you take the one that is the most embarrassing, if that's what you want to do. And you blow that up, you crop it up, and boom.
It happens all the time
magic.
to Trump. The left media does that all the time. But
they're the people that they want to showcase that are good. They do the same thing. There they are. Snap as many photos. Oh, that is a showcase.
Well, you know what they can do now? I don't know that you're aware of this or not now, but you can shoot video of your subject.
And still frame it.
And then you can still frame. You can just capture one frame that makes him look ridiculous. I mean,
all digital cameras do that. You can shoot movies with it, and you go, "Oh, I want that frame." There you go. You got it right there. And you can get that off-guard frame. And how do you think they get all that stuff? Well, what I'm saying is the pictures are a form of editorializing. And then they sit there and they take their news. They take an opinion and they present it as news and factual. And that is so wrong,
But there are people on the left who would hear us say that. People that you and I know who, and I just don't understand. I think to myself, are these people paying any real attention to what's going on in the world?
Absolutely not. They don't listen to the podcast if somebody posts a negative on it, they read the little headline, and that's what they react to.
Oh, by the way, I'm going to say this now before we go too deep in the show. We don't allow comments on the Facebook posting. I don't on when I post it, because that's not the place that we debate the issues. We have a phone number here. You can call and make a comment on the phone number anytime you want to, 833-538-7868. You want to make a comment, good or bad, suggestion, that's what it's there for, 833-538-7868. But when we get into, I'd be spending all day debating with people who just want to fight. And I've gone beyond that in my life, I mean, we do this program because we have a lot to say. We have certain opinions which we think a lot of people share, and we also want to get the truth out to people who aren't getting the truth. In a cesspool of news, we try to give you what we think are factual tidbits that mean something in this. That's what we do. And if you are a leftist liberal who just wants to get into a debate about the program, what I would suggest you do is go get your own podcast. You can do it. You can go out. You can build an audience of several million people. Go ahead. Let's see how you do. That's just my suggestion.
No, I agree. They ought to get their own podcast, because obviously they got stuff to say. Unless, of course, it's stuff that has been given to them on a website and they have no free thought of their own. And that's a sad situation.
Well, Bill, Greg Kelly was on the night before last, and he made an interesting statement. I'm going to let him say it.
There is an audio tape, I am told, by people in the know, not necessarily in government, not necessarily out of government. I can't say too much, but there is incontrovertible evidence of Joe Biden's corruption that is about to be made public. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen before Labor Day, but it will happen sometime between Labor Day and Halloween. This tape will be made public. I'm not sure by what entity at this point, but once it is heard, Joe Biden will have, he'll have only two options. Number one, he will not be able to remain a candidate for the presidency for re-election. It will be over and done with. The only thing that he might be able to do, potentially, but probably not, is remain as president. I am told this tape is that incriminating, and they're worried about it right now at the White House. They know about it. They know it's out there. There may be more than one, and it makes a lot of sense.
I thought that was interesting. He's got something. He's sort of from somebody who's connected that they got a tape, and this tape is going to be game changing for Biden.
Well, Biden's got a loose lip, and he's been caught off guard before, and so there's a good chance. I'm just of the I'm one of those guys that says, bring on the Kraken. Let me see it, because I want to see it. I want to hear it. And then I will get excited. Until then, I wait patiently for it. But I can say this, it would explain why, the left is doing what they're doing. They're reconvening a grand jury, which has no power to do anything. And it's a one-sided, very politicized grand jury that gets together and go, yeah, we ought to, we should go after him for this. And that's what they do.
But what you hear on CNN? You know what you're hearing on CNN? You're hearing stuff like this. This is a guy named Abby Lowell who's telling us how great Hunter Biden is.
Are asking, what did Hunter Biden think he was getting that $7 million for? Why would he be getting paid so much money?
All right, well, stop with your $7 million and talk about how many years that Hunter has been in business and what happened to each of those specific years. When you say it that way, people think that somebody just sent him a check for $7 million on April the 1st.
No, but help me out here again. And I'm glad you're here to actually break this down. Obviously, Jared raised his $3 billion very quickly. We have numbers being thrown around. The $7 million is actually not what Comer's saying. Comer has a much higher, much more elevated number. I guess the Washington Post reported it was $7 million. What's the $7 million over, and how many countries did it come from?
Well, okay, so first of all, it's much more complicated than to say it comes from countries. There are joint ventures between American entities and, in one or two occasions, a potential foreign entity to create the possibility of jobs and energy in the United States. That's too complicated to try to explain, but I can answer the question that you asked in the following way. Over the time that he was in business, this is, again, something that people ought to pay attention to. Hunter Biden went to Georgetown University, went to Yale Law School, was on the board of directors of a bank, was on the board of directors of Amtrak, is somebody who went and worked in an international law firm. People seem to forget that this is not the person who's simply out there having people write checks for no reason. He's a capable, educated, experienced person. Now, if Congress wants to start saying, wait, does he get opportunities because his last name is Biden? They should look to themselves. I mean, Senator Joe Manchin's wife is on a commission in West Virginia where Congress had provided an enormous amount of funds.
What was that? He's a capable, educated, experienced man. He went to Yale. He went to Yale. I would suggest that schools like Yale are mills for the children of the powerful, meaning if you are a Biden and he's a senator and it's a big friggin' deal, well, you may not be the sharpest tool in the damn shed, but we'll get you into Yale because, well, we have connections. That's the kind of stuff that Yale does. Yale isn't all scholastics. It isn't all merit. It isn't all stuff that you've earned to get. It's many times a favor. Look at some of the numbskulls, some of the jerks who've come out of Ivy League schools. I'm serious. You look at guys who've gone to Ivy League colleges, you think, well, he went to Princeton, he went to Harvard, he went to Brown. He's got to be a smart guy. And then you listen to him talk and you think, my God, he can't put a sentence together. And that's the kind of thing that the world we live in right now. Yeah. Do not think that just because he has checked a box on his resume, Ivy League smart, it equates to him being smart.
Smart ass is what it should be. Let me tell you something about colleges and everything. Like when you graduate from Yale, it doesn't say, yeah, I got my degree as an attorney. I was a D student, barely a D student. It doesn't say that. It says you got a degree from Yale.
That's right.
It doesn't even say that you went to the frigging class, because what it says is you got a degree from Yale. You can get the ACT book.
Do you know they should? That's the same way with doctors. When we pick a
would
doctor,
you like to know you have an A doctor or a D doctor?
That's exactly right. It should be mandatory. Not only that, but they should have to post, like if it's a surgeon, the success rate of his last 20 patients. If 10 of them died, you might want to look someplace else. I'm just saying.
Well, let me tell you a little sneaky secret here about getting a degree from any college USA. See, it's all about money to begin with. But there's a book, I believe it's called the ACT book, and it has all the courses everywhere and the requirements. Now, in that ACT book, you can sit there and go through it and go, I want to get this degree, and I've got to do this class. All right. All you've got to do is test out, and they give you everything that you need to know to take the test. 70% on that, and then you didn't go to class 1. All you're going to do is pay for the class. And you now have
There's a lot of schools doing that now. A lot of schools that have distance learning,
Well, they did this before the pandemic. You essentially could buy into a degree, and they all do it because it all gets down to money. And that's what it is. And you can test out and be.
When you think about higher education, Bill, the whole thing has been a scam for the last 60 or 70 years.
It is a scam. It is a scam.
Give me an example. Return of the century, 20th century. You could graduate from high school, then you could go to a law firm and you could intern at the law firm for 5 years in many states, including Massachusetts and Rhode Island. After 5 years, you could take a test and you'd be a lawyer. Mm-hmm. And you didn't spend one day in law school. You didn't even go to college. You just spent 5 years interning, apprenticing in a law firm, and you could become a lawyer. That somewhere along the line, the lawyers figured, wait a second, we're being inundated with lawyers in our profession. We've got to put some controls on this. So let's make it that they have to be college graduates. And then someone said, well, wait a second, why don't we start law schools and let them go from college to law school? We'll make more money. The schools will make more money, and then we can kind of filter out the wheat from the chaff, if you know what I'm saying. And that's where we went over the 20th century. And now it's kind of backfiring. People are saying, wait a second, what am I getting for $80,000 a year? What am I getting for a lot of these poor kids graduate from college, and all they have is a piece of paper and maybe $160,000 in debt, from some of these colleges. And they're starting to say, wait a second, why did I do this? I'm working at Burger King. It's not.
There are so many cheats and hacks with everything, even to be, I don't know, a doctor or a pharmacist. You can actually challenge the board, and you can go to work for a CVS, a Walgreens, and you go back and you work in the pharmacy, and they have a computer course where you just learn basic stuff. It's not a degree. They call it their online university, but you're working in that store, you're filling prescriptions, and then one day you get this piece of paper that says, it's a certificate. You're not a pharmacist. You're not a doctor. You're not a doctor. You're not a pharmacist. But after you've apprenticed for so long, you do this thing called challenging the board. You go in and say, I've done this. I've done this many hours. Guess what? You're now a pharmacist.
Well, it doesn't surprise me. I would suggest to young people out there, I got my degree when I was 56 years old. Mm-hmm. Okay? I had gone to college after high school. I spent a year in college, and I went into broadcasting because I was going to make more money than the superintendent of schools in the town I was living in. As a young guy, I kept thinking, wait a second, I'm going to go to college, and I got a job over here that's going to pay me more than the superintendent in my town, and I'm going to go work in radio. And, I ended up having my career first. I got my education second, but the point is I did it online. I went to a state school, a fully accredited state school in New Jersey, and I would suggest to anybody, I saved thousands of dollars. There was no room and board. There was no books to buy. I mean, I had to buy books, but a lot of them were online. The lectures that I watched were on my computer. it takes a lot of discipline to do home study because you have so many distractions and you have to do the work because you can't cheat the test. They've designed the testing so that you really just can't get around it. You got to know the information.
Oh, you've got to study, yeah, but you can do things online, but you've got to dedicate the time, and that's it.
But the thing is, you save thousands, Bill. I mean, whereas it may cost you $40,000-$50,000 a year in college, it may cost you, if you go to get your degree online, it may cost you $5,000 or $6,000 a year, $7,000 a year. A lot of money for a lot of people, but a tenth of what they're going to pay if they're walking around a campus someplace.
Well, let me ask you a question, though. We were actually talking about Hunter. We got into this, but
yeah,
which was important. But Hunter, he went to Harvard. Huh? Okay. So what did he do? I mean, what was his education?
Well, he probably
psychology.
I'm thinking he probably did something like poli-sci, political science, or something. Because he ended up going into government, into law, and then I'm sure he had.
I don't imagine. See, I just can't figure him as a lawyer. I bet you could.
He is
ask
a lawyer.
him,
yeah,
he is.
Yeah.
But I can't see how he passed anything.
Well,
the only thing I know he majored in was crackology.
I think you're right. I think a lot of these guys, to be honest with you, I think a lot of these guys get pushed through these different schools. Mm-hmm. They get moved right along. You have to understand something. He has made an adult living at breaking the law and cheating on things. Okay, so why would he have started after law school? Why wouldn't he have started in law school? I mean, once a cheat, always a cheat.
Yep.
So I mean, I think I think it'll be interesting to see what happens if that tape that comes out in the next few weeks is what Greg Kelly seems to indicate that it will be. He smiled because he knows what's on the tape, but he can't release it yet.
So he's probably heard it.
Yeah, I'm thinking he probably has.
As long as I know he's heard the tape, then that's something to be excited about. But it's not, because the left, if they don't want that tape to happen, they want to get to the tape and they want to get to the person that has it. And, oh, man, I cannot believe the bridge caved in while they were driving across it.
You know what's amazing, Bill, though? It's a good point you just made. I mean, we know that there was cocaine in the White House, and under normal, lawful circumstances, it would have been something which someone would have gone to jail for, right? But in the Biden situation, you had the Secret Service covering for Joe. Somebody in the Secret Service, and I think it was somebody up the ladder. It wasn't your average guy on the street Secret Service agent. I think it was somebody up in command level somewhere who was either doing the president a favor. He was not doing it lawfully. I mean, I heard somebody say, I think it was in that Abby Lowell tape about what's his name's Trump's son-in-law, and I can't think of his name, but the son-in-law of Trump is comes from a very wealthy family. They own a lot of real estate in New York. You know what I'm talking about, Jared Kushner. Thank you, Jared Kushner. And you heard Joe Scarborough, and that was MSNBC, not CNN, but that was Joe Scarborough saying, well, Jared raised $3 million real fast. Well, Jared comes from a family that's worth several $billion, and he can raise a few $1 million really fast. The difference is Joe Biden comes from a family of common people from Scranton, Pennsylvania. And he says this all the time, right? And where does he get his money from? He gets his money from corruption. So Hunter gets his money from corruption too. They try to equate things when the Bidens do something illegal. They try to equate it to something on the Trump team, and it doesn't work out. But they sell it that way. And you know, Bill, we were talking about this before the show started. We're in a strange situation again. Apparently, something's going to drop. A shoe is going to drop. You heard Greg Kelly talk about this. What happened in Florida yesterday?
Oh, yeah. Well, you got a hurricane coming, so they got to get gas in there so that people can get in their cars and get the hell out of harm's way. Now, it just seems odd that all the gas that was shipped down to Florida was bad gas. And I'm not talking about an upset stomach. I'm talking about the gas was contaminated.
Here's what they said in Florida.
Additionally, the state has been made aware of a situation involving fuel contamination at gas stations serviced by the Port of Tampa. I want to ensure Floridians that we are coordinating here at the EOC with everyone from petroleum retailers to the ports themselves to ensure that the disruption will not be widespread or prolonged and that residents can have seamless access to fuel. At the direction of the governor, as he's already mentioned, we have already waived the size, weight, and hour restrictions for getting those necessary resources into the state and down to consumers as quickly and effectively as possible.
Okay, so that's what's happening with that situation in Florida. And you have to ask yourself, if you are a thinking human being, has that ever happened before that you know of?
Actually, on a consistent basis, because, one of the things since Bidenomics and us helping the economy by getting rid of our reserves.
Wait, you say it happens on a consistent basis?
Yeah.
They contaminate the fuel?
Water and the gas. Yes, they water our gas.
No, that's not what this is contaminated with. This is contaminated with diesel fuel.
Oh, they mixed it. I don't know how they did that.
They mixed gasoline with diesel fuel. So it isn't a matter of putting water in the tank. You're right. They do that all the time. They water the gas down so they get more gas for their money,
Yeah, and it's getting worse on that. That's a whole different story there. And I mean, if you have a big engine, something that needs a lot of octane, you better buy the high-grade gas, and it's got water in it too.
Okay,
Otherwise,
so you got thousands of people in Tampa who are trying to flee to safety to go to some place that's out of the path of the storm, and they're driving out of the state with gasoline that is contaminated with diesel fuel. How many people are going to break down on the highway because their car can't handle it?
Well, I'm not a mechanic. I couldn't tell you what it will do, but I know that you cannot run diesel fuel in a regular gas combustion engine. I mean, it may work, but not for long. It's gonna screw up some internal works of that engine.
Is it diesel that's much hotter than gasoline? One of the two is hotter than the other, and that's the problem. I think diesel is what, kerosene? No, that's that's airplane fuel. But yeah, diesel fuel it's not something you want to put in a gas combustion engine. You just don't want to do it.
I don't think it's refined as much. I don't know. Again, that's the topic that anything I say is pure speculation.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've never in my life heard of on a large scale them mixing diesel fuel with gasoline. Now, what they're trying to say is, well, it was a human error. Wait a second. This guy drives around a tank full. This isn't, by the way, individual gas stations. This is a blend of the fuels on a massive scale. The whole state.
How did that happen?
Did it happen on a ship? Did they blend them on a ship before they offloaded the fuel? I don't know how they do that on a massive scale. I could see a gas station. You get Norman Nimrod going in there, and he's driven this. He's half awake, and he screws the hose onto the wrong inlet, and he dumps the wrong fuel into a gas station's tank. That would be bad enough. But
there's coating on it, and it would make sense that each of the hookups would be a little bit different.
You would think that would be
that would be logic.
That would be the smart thing, Bill.
It's color coded, and it's kind of like the canopy to a lens to a camera.
Yeah.
This Canon doesn't fit on this Nikon.
Exactly.
Sorry, it just doesn't work.
Exactly.
The premium grade doesn't fit on the low premium.
So where in the process, where in the system did they contaminate the fuel? And how could that not be intentional? I mean, you have these people are doing it day in, day out. this isn't the first time these guys have offloaded the fuel, right? So somewhere along the line, and I do think it goes to it's a form of terrorism, in my opinion. It's a form of terrorism when you start messing around with things like fuel on a statewide basis.
But don't you think, just isn't it odd that we have all these screw-ups, mistakes, and disasters all hitting at a key critical time? Are the gods in heaven mad at us? Or is somebody messing around with stuff?
You got to ask yourself that question. I haven't. You got to hope not. The Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services reported fuel contamination has occurred at dozens of gas stations that were serviced by the Port of Tampa, which is just coincidentally directly in the path of the storm. It is the ground zero. It is the target for this storm. And they're trying to make it off as being a human error, and I don't know how you make a human error. Why does it happen right before a hurricane? Why didn't it happen, 2 weeks ago on a nice sunny day with, we got a mixture of gas, we can pump that stuff out and put new gas in. It was a mistake. We'll get rid of that stuff.
Yeah, they can transfer it from one tank to another, but no, it happens at a crucial time. And, somebody would say, well, they were in a hurry and, mistakes happen when you do that. There seems to be a lot of mistakes happening that have a certain type of effect. Heck, we've got a pandemic coming, now just like a Trump indictment, going down before, right after something bad for the Bidens happens or is about to happen. Let's hit him with another indictment because he is their worst nightmare. And that's all there is to it. Well, but then you got everything else that's going down all of a sudden that's critical too. And it happens just at, free election. We hate to say it, that virus, it mutates and it's mutating into a deadly. You got to get the mask on.
But here's the thing. They
got to take another shot.
They admit to the fact, Bill, that there's no pandemic yet. There's no increase in hospitalizations.
Well, there's a slight increase in number, but nowhere near the, sound the alarm mark, but they're sounding the alarm anyway. So that tells me that they are priming the pump. They do this a lot. All right, get the people ready. We've got another pandemic. We don't just want to launch it on them. We want to wean them into
They
it.
want you to wear masks again, and everything.
People are doing it. Have you noticed that?
But everything I've read, you said people are doing it, Bill. I haven't been paying attention.
You're
visiting a very liberal state, and they would.
It's down in northeast Pennsylvania too, and up here in Massachusetts and New England. And I'm like going, you clown, you fool.
It doesn't work. It doesn't. Masks don't. This isn't just me saying this. There's a lot of research out there that says they don't work. Some people say the N95 mask is somewhat effective. It is the most uncomfortable thing on the face of the earth, and it is not totally effective from what I've read. And I've read a lot of stuff, and a lot of people out there, they just won't wear them anymore. That's enough. Enough is enough.
All you've got to do is look at the virus and the size of it. They have the size of it. And then you look at the mask and what it will block and what it won't block, the size of the molecules. And all of a sudden, the N95 and all of that stuff, you may as well go without the mask.
Well,
it's not going to do anything.
The description I heard is like throwing sand through a chain link fence.
Pretty much.
So they want you to wear the mask, and they want you to get the shots again. They're already talking, Biden's already talking about the pharmaceutical companies creating a new vaccine. You don't want a quickly created vaccine shoved in your arm. That happened once for a lot of us. For some of us, I'm afraid it was deadly, in my humble opinion. For others, it was at least incapacitated. It knocked you out. It made you sick.
Who cares about what it does to people? Well, let's get to the bottom of this. Does it help somebody win an election? Yeah, it probably does. Does it help somebody get richer? Yeah, it sure does.
And does it help you get over the virus?
That's
No.
insignificant. That's who cares? Somebody's getting rich and somebody is getting elected. Heck, in Massachusetts, and it was kind of funny because my friend up here does real estate, and they're dealing with a house that's got these solar panels on it with a solar company, and now the governor here signs a big thing that everybody can get solar panels now, and it's all paid for, and you're going to save money and all this, which I'm not arguing solar electricity and if it's done right. But, those contracts that you're doing with the company, it's just it's a way that you're passing the wealth from one to another source.
Bill, if I lived in New Mexico or Arizona or someplace like that where there's a lot of sunshine, I might be interested in maybe having some solar panels to augment what I have. But, you're talking about the Boston area. I've lived in the Boston area.
Yeah. What good is it?
They got a lot of clouds and a lot of rain. So how much do you save with solar panels?
Well, you could still save money, but the thing is, you don't own the unit. You're going to lease it for 25 years. There's a certain amount of time that you got to sit there and do that lease. And anytime you decide to buy it out, when you hit a certain point, you're buying it out at their full retail price at that time. You don't own it. And if you do buy it out for that exorbitant price that you could do for less than half of that, then you got to pay somebody a maintenance fee. So it is a over job.
In 25 years, aren't those panels going to be obsolete? Will there be something better in 25 years than those?
Well,
let's say you put panels on your roof, and in 25 years you can own those. Well, maybe in 5 years they will have something half the size and 10 times more effective. But you've got these monstrosities on your roof. What are you going to do with them? In 25 years, they're yours. Well, in 25 years, they're going to be obsolete, and nobody's going to want to buy them anyway, so you can have them.
Yeah, they're obsolete, and they probably are at 60, 50% efficiency.
Yep.
Somebody will argue with that number, but it's all a guesstimate anyway of what it will do. They're basically, you're saying it's just another utility bill, and they trap you in. I don't know why we're talking about this, but the governor, it's in news. The simple fact is they trap you into a contract. They're saying, yeah, but look at all the money you're saving this year. Yeah, but next year and the year after that, they can jack up the price exponentially. So you're leasing on. Somebody once told me, if you don't own it, you've got nothing. So, if you're thinking you're getting it, it's a bad deal. But somebody is making money, the solar company and the politician that made it all happen.
Okay,
and they get the tax benefit too.
Other things that we're looking at. We still have a war, by the way, in the Ukraine. We still have a war that nobody's talking about.
There's a war going on and nobody's talking about it. Wow,
it's absolutely amazing. We have a war. Oh, by the way, before I forget, again, this is another one of those Jim Harrington moments where an idea comes racing through my brain, but I have to grab it really fast. It's like a train.
Well, you have a signal light up there. Yeah. It's one stoplight. It's a small town.
You got to grab it before the light changes. But September 11th, which is, of course, where
Joe.
Biden, Joe's going to be on September
Alaska.
11th? Wait a second. It's the anniversary of 9/11. You would think maybe he might go to New York. He might go to Washington, the Pentagon. He might go up to Shanksville up in Pennsylvania and pay his respects. No, Joe's going someplace really important. He's going to the furthest most point that we have in the United States. It's like he's going to Alaska and then some. It's like,
isn't there? There's an air base up there, but I don't think that's the only reason or thing that he's doing up there.
No, he's probably going ice skating or something. I don't know.
There's oil up there, and there's oil that he can't control up there.
Well,
you knew that, right?
I don't know how he can't control it. He shut down the pipelines, Keystone.
No. The oil that's up there is on. It's not. It's like Native American land, but it's
Oh,
not
okay.
by the Indians. It's the Eskimos.
So what's he trying
And
to do? Convince them to stop creating oil?
Right, because there's companies up there. I know because my nephew is up there, one of the foremen up there, saying we got to move this oil and get it going because we need it in America before they
So
come
wait
in.
a second. Joe is going to go up there because he's so good at persuading people to do stuff, and he's going to go up to Native American who, by the way, probably before the oil was there, were dirt poor. I mean, they lived off the land, and that was it, and in cold hovel somewhere. And then all of a sudden, they probably struck oil, and the people probably have a much better way of life. But Joe's going to go up there and convince them that they
Well,
should
we
turn
don't
the
know
spigot
that,
off.
yeah, we don't know that's what he's going up there for. But I'm going like, what is up in Alaska? Well, there's oil, there's gold. Forget about the gold, although that could be too. But the oil would be the big thing because he is hell bent on shutting down all of our oil independence. And that is one of the last stands that we have.
He has not done a blessed thing that has been good for our country. And that's another thing I would say to my liberal friends who are tuning in by mistake. This guy hasn't done one thing that has been good for our country. I challenge you to tell me something that he's done positive. Afghanistan, was that a good thing? Absolutely not. And this guy, he killed 13 of our best and brightest, and he maimed many, many more. Why? It didn't have to end that way, but he did it. And you know what else he does now? He takes victory laps on how he ended the war in Afghanistan. This disgusting guy has no problem walking around, strutting around, talking about how he got out of Afghanistan, the 20-year war. Well, you did it in the worst way possible, sir. You did it in a way that killed and maimed people. And by the way, no one talks about the fact that we left behind Americans. Last I heard, there were still Americans who were stuck behind the lines in Afghanistan.
That's true.
I mean, this guy, and then we can talk about the border. We can talk about the Ukraine. We can talk about fuel prices. We can talk about the economy. So tell me what he's done good.
Well, let's go back a little bit to 911, all right, and the fact of paying respects in New York or in D.C. Now, he's going to Alaska, and I speculate on why he's going there. But Jill is going to go do a reef at the Pentagon Memorial there, and that's it. Thank you, Jill. That's really nice of you.
Why doesn't Carmelo do it?
Well, I don't know. Well, see, that's the other thing. With all the problems that we're having with Biden and everything, and that tape that's coming out, Biden may have to step down. Fret not, friends. We have Kamala.
We have Kamala. I had someone, I think a lot of them who thought that Carmela couldn't be president because she wasn't born here. But that's wrong. She was born in Oakland, California. So the scary thing is, I guess she still could be president.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and that is scary, and there is no contingency for it. But, going back to 911 and Joe, the other thing that he's doing, we still have locked up some of the participants in that 911 takedown of the Trade Center and the killing of massive American life. They've been locked up. Well, they were locked up. Joe has released them. So we can't pay respect for the people that died here.
Yeah.
But we can sure as hell help out the people that perpetrated the attack in our country.
Unbelievable. Just absolutely amazing. This is the guy who so many on the left try to defend. I mean, I see these guys on MSNBC
they
and CNN.
Still defend him.
They talk about him like he's getting a raw deal by those Trump people.
Right.
You know what else amazes me, Bill? They're trying to demonize the Trump people. They're trying to call us white supremacists. I mean, Biden refers to the greatest threat we're facing right now in this country, the greatest terror threat is from white supremacists. And I'm thinking, are you out of your mind, sir? I mean, where? Tell me where.
Isn't that, to coin a phrase, and it's a racist phrase, but we're talking about Joe Biden, who is a racist. Isn't that the pot calling the kettle black? He's sitting there talking about a white supremacist when his best friend was a Ku Klux Klansman.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And when he has done everything that he could in his early years against black people, and from one of the biggest civil rights attorneys around that I know of, it's in Pittsburgh, sat there and said, once a racist, always a racist.
Hillary Clinton even said about Robert Byrd, she said, when I became senator, one of the first people I sought out for advice was Robert Byrd. And I thought to myself, you madam, are you're nuts. You to associate yourself with, he was in the Senate for a long time. Yeah, he tried to, and I guess effectively polished up his image a bit. But there's an expression, and I'll try to clean it up. You can take a turd, but you can't polish a turd. Because once there, always there. It's what I'm saying? It is absolutely, positively unpolishable. But Robert Byrd tried to do it. You have to, West Virginia didn't have the Ku Klux Klan. He brought it into the state. So this is a guy who they're trying to make him sound like he was the Reverend.
So he brought the disease to the state.
Oh yeah, they've since it's not. It hasn't got a footprint now, but back then it did. Back when he brought it in.
Well, it would be interesting in that state. Were there any people lynched, hung?
Oh God knows, it was a hard time, and to think that people could have done such inhuman things to people, it blows my mind. By the way, I should also point out that the KKK, for the most part, were Democrats, Southern Democrats. That's right, Southern Democrats. They started out as disgruntled Confederate soldiers, and they were mostly, they were 99 and 4,400% Democrat.
Yeah. I could say something that's...
you can.
No, because what I was going to say would be really derogatory against Democrats, or those Democrats, what they used to do at their rallies. And no, I would be making it up. I have no factual base on that, but I don't want to do that. So
they not
but
all.
You can only imagine. It's a racist party.
I came from a family of Democrats. My dad and my mom were Democrats. My aunts and uncles, we were Irish Catholics from the Boston area. Back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, it was like part of the prerequisite. You had to be this, and Democrat. It was the way it was. And a lot of people were that way. And I would submit that a lot of people who are Democrat today, it's that same residual effect. They're not paying attention. I'm a Democrat. I was born a Democrat, and I'll die a Democrat. It's that kind of an attitude. It's not like they haven't stopped to realize that their party has been taken over by socialists.
Yeah, they have. They infiltrated a party and they've taken it over. And, I was of the belief racism was not eradicated in this country. You'll never eradicate racism or prejudices at all, because there's always going to be somebody that goes, you're different than me. And it's a human nature flaw, but that's just the way it is. But the simple fact that...
But Bill, you look at little kids, you look at 4 and 5 year olds, and they don't see color
innocent.
At all. They don't see any color at all.
We are taught racism.
Yes.
But that's, my point is that we were getting further and further and further away from it. And all of a sudden, since Joe Biden has come into office, did he shine the magnifying glass to say that, it's been here all along? Keep in mind that he's a racist himself, or is somebody sitting there restoking those coals and getting those embers to fire up again? Because one thing that is definitely happening, it used to be that we could have a difference of opinions, but we could talk. We can't do it anymore. We're divided.
He tells the world to this day that he fought for civil rights.
When I marched in the
never
civil
did.
rights movement, I did not march with a 12-point program. I marched with tens of thousands of others to change attitudes. And we changed attitudes.
He lied to voters, according to the New York Times, quoting aides of Biden's, about having marched in the civil rights movement.
I got involved in the civil rights movement. I got involved in desegregated movie theaters. They organized voter registration drives. From the time I got involved as a high school kid in the civil rights movement. But I was a kid involved in the civil rights movement, desegregating restaurants and movie theaters in my state. From the time I got involved as a kid in the civil rights movement, sit-ins and desegregating restaurants. And I got involved in the civil rights movement just as a kid. And that's why I got so deeply involved in my community with the civil rights movement. When I sat in black churches on the east side of Wilmington getting ready to, and by the way, next to two Jewish rabbis, getting ready to go out and desegregate movie theaters in Delaware. I come out of the civil rights movement. I start off in the black churches and we'd go from there to desegregate movie theaters. For real, I got involved in the civil rights movement. From the time I've been 18 years old, I've been involved in causes from the civil rights movement. Got involved in the civil rights movement and desegregating restaurants, that kind of thing. Coming out of the civil rights movement and being involved in the Jewish community as a kid in the civil rights movement. I got involved in the civil rights movement and getting ready to go out and desegregate restaurants and movie theaters. That's what got me involved in civil rights as a kid. I got very engaged, in my case, the civil rights movement.
Quote, more than once, advisors had gently reminded Mr. Biden of the problem with this formulation. He had not actually marched during the civil rights movement, and more than once, Mr. Biden assured them that he understood and kept telling the story anyway. That is really, really weird.
You know, you tell a lie enough, and it becomes truth.
That's true.
And there's a divide that's going on, and it's a generational thing, and that's another thing that they're doing. So I'm here to tell you that Joe is a racist, and you, Jim, and I know it. And you know, I don't know where that divide line is in the generations.
That's a good point you just made, though. He's, I say, smart enough to know that if he just keeps saying he was,
it will be de facto become the norm.
The truth, yeah.
And and that was what I was thinking. I wonder if I Googled it right now, Joe's stance on
civil rights.
Civil rights, did he march for? I bet you, because we've seen it happen before where they've changed Wikipedia, because you can you can go and write something for Wikipedia and change it. And I bet you the narrative that's out there being changed. My son, he's 20. He's going to be 21 coming up in November. But he has no idea about Joe.
Yeah.
He goes, and I sit there and say, yeah, he's a racist, all that.
Well, he says
what I hear about.
He says he marched for civil rights with, he sat in black churches and stuff like. He didn't do that.
Yeah, but, in radio, we used to talk about demographics. And, somebody said, imagine a conveyor belt. People get on at a certain age, and there's a certain age where they fall off that conveyor belt. Where is that generational divide to where they fall off? Joe is marking and making his legacy. He's already done his damage and reaped the benefits. Now he wants to be remembered as this guy, and so does this party, so it can continue. And they've got to sit there and spew their lies.
Yeah.
And they're not trying to sell you or me, Jim. They're trying to sell people below that generational line so that when we fall off the conveyor belt or get close to the end of it, they sit there and say, just a senile old man babbling along. They don't understand. And then they take that soundbite you just played.
Yeah.
All the stuff that he did. He's a great man. We ought to have Joe Biden Civil Rights Day. What date should we pick on the calendar? Think about it.
That's true. They can create any image they want to create nowadays, especially when you have
what they're doing.
When you have the leftist media behind. I had somebody say to me, well, what happens if hypothetically there was justice in our country and the military came in and said, wait a second, we have rock solid proof that the past 2.5 years have been illegitimate and corrupt. So we're not going to insert Trump into the presidency right now, but we're gonna move in and we're going to straighten things out for 6 months or 8 months or whatever it takes to straighten things out because our system has been corrupted. but you wonder, would they stop the media? Would they also have to, if that were the case, if they went in and tried to correct the situation, they would have to turn off the media because the media is part of the problem. They're co-conspirators.
But even some of that's generational. There are people that now on the left and people that are younger saying, yeah, you know what? Maybe we need to control certain speech because they've indoctrinated that into
the socialist
generational divide.
Yeah, the communists believe that, Bill. The communists, that's part of their whole system. Control the news.
Right. You know, communism is a two-step thing. Well, you know, you got Marxism, socialism, communism. You've got to go through the stair steps, and it's all playing out. And I think there's a generational line that the old school is going to fall off this line, and when the last of us do, we're like dinosaurs. This land will never, ever, ever be the same again.
Well, we've talked about a lot of things today, and there's so much going on in the news, so many things that we have to be aware of. We know that they're trying desperately, the left is, to destroy, not to simply remove Trump from the landscape of politics, but they really and truly would be happy if they could destroy the man completely so there's never a chance of him ever coming back. But that being said, you hear him in interviews and he sounds amazingly calm for a guy who's being attacked from all fronts.
Yeah, he does.
I mean, I don't know how he does it. I heard Glenn say yesterday, I don't know how you do it. I'd be in a basket right now. I'd be
he'd be driving off a bridge somewhere because I know Glenn Beck, you know.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm not saying he's an unstable individual. I'm just saying.
I know he's just emotional, and he like a lot of us would be upset beyond belief if we were being attacked every day from different people in different states for different reasons, and then they all want you to go to court ASAP. You know, this lady in D.C., Chutkin, who said that she wants him to go to trial in March of 24. I heard a lawyer say, do you realize there's over 1 million pages of evidence that they have to go through? It will take him way beyond the 24th of March just to read the evidence.
Well, you know what? You read at the pace of 0.50 words. What is it? A minute. So, you know, you don't, or pages a minute. So you don't even read a whole page. So just say 1.2 million pages.
Yeah.
And let's just round it up to 60 seconds, 1 minute.
Yeah.
How many? Okay. If it's 1.2 million pages, that's going to take 1.2 million minutes divided by 60 in an hour. And that's going to give you how many hours
what was
it would take to read it all.
Give me those figures again.
1.2 million pages, and I think it's more than that. And you read
divided by what?
Well, okay, then you've got 1 page a minute.
Okay, so you have
60 minutes in an hour.
Yeah.
60 minutes in an hour. So divide that by 60, and that will give you the number of hours to read.
That's 20,000 hours. 20,000 hours for
24 hours in a day, 365 days a year.
Times 24 is 480,000.
So there you go. And that gives you, we're not going to get it done in our lifetime.
No. You know, and even if you divide it and conquer, let's say you get a whole room full of attorneys to take a bunch of different pages and read it. But then they got to get together and share what they've learned. They've got to discuss what they were reading. You know, it's just ridiculous.
I tend to say, number one, the intent of generating that much paperwork is a simple fact that you can't read it all. And, well, we got to expeditiously get this court case out. And number two, I would tend to say that a lot of what's in there is BS and duplication of the same charges over and over and over and over and over again. And the only way you could do that is go through and parse it out with an AI to sit there and take out the stuff. But still, you're going to have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of man hours that need to go into this. So the point is to make this overwhelming mound of political BS.
Yeah, he'll never
that
get
you have to go-
he'll never get any justice. Never.
No, there's no way to do a fair trial. And again, the grand jury, the judges, and the prosecutor are all left appointees. They are partial. They're not impartial. So
that's right. They're political. You're exactly right.
It's an unfair It is a total violation of the due process of law, and when they get done with this, if they pull it off, they will have rewritten law forever and changed it to where we are a third world, if not a communist country.
I think we're already there. By the way, if you want to contact us, friends, our number is 833-538-7868, 833-538-7868.
Mail at itsanotherday.com. Mail at itsanotherday.com. Do write, do call. We would appreciate hearing from you.
It's time, Bill. I love when you do this. It's time for the Bill Knight farewell for the day.
Oh, man, I hope it's not the last farewell, though.
No.
But hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
The voice of freedom, CRN America. A terrorist sleeper cell has plans to detonate a suitcase nuclear device while the president and the Israeli prime minister are making an appearance at the convention center in Pittsburgh. Can a retired New York City cop stop it from happening? If the cop is Jack Kane, then it's got a good chance. Strike at the Giant, a Jack Kane mystery by Jim Harrington, is a page-turner that will keep you riveted from cover to cover. Strike at the Giant, a Jack Kane mystery from Dover and Blackstone Media, LLC, is available at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and many other great online book sites. Or visit itsanotherday.com and click on our link at the top of the page. When it comes to mysteries and a great read, Strike at the Giant is all you need. The voice of freedom, CRN America. These days, when you want an answer about just about anything, you ask Alexa. You ask her about the weather. You ask her who won your favorite sporting event. You ask her to find a fact that you can't find anywhere. Well, we did that too. We asked her how many people have downloaded itsanotherday.com. And this is what she said.
From acceleration.com, it has been downloaded as much as 260,433,467 times.
I know. Seems like a lot. Seems like a lot to us too. But it's Alexa. Thanks for making us a part of your day. And tell your friends about itsanotherday.com. We could use an extra listener. I mean, what do you do when you only have 260 million?